drop that cos in there, Mark. Good stuff. I'm flat out working on a garden with Jane. We're at a centre run by Uralla, and we responded to their call out for help to help create a garden that's accessible to the residents and the staff. But more on this place later. Let's see what else is on this week's show. I reckon the snow piece now, Mark. What do you think?
I'm at the newest and grandest parkland reserve ever created on Sydney Harbour.
And I'm going to show you how to grow an edible cubby house using only a stick, some string, and a packet of seeds. Squid's already digging the hole.
Grasses and clumping perennials are some of the most rewarding plants in the garden. They fill a space quickly, provide continuity when repeated through a landscape, and are easily multiplied.
One of my favourite gardens in the world is on my doorstep, Carrick Hill, and I've been involved here on and off over the last 20 years, helping with planning and planting out various garden areas. Carrick Hill is an English-style manor with stunning gardens set on 40 hectares in the Adelaide foothills. Edward and Ursula Hayward built the place and lived here from the late 1930s until the 1980s, when it was bequeathed to the people of South Australia. I'm catching up with Richard Heathcote. He knows Carrick Hill intimately. Now, I find the story of the house amazing, that Ursula and Edward went on their honeymoon for a year, as you do, and they came back with a house. Tell me more.
Oh, you need a little more information. They had style and wealth that helped them do this. I mean, 12 months driving around the shires of England. But they did have a dream, and they found in the north of England a stately home that was to be demolished. A lot of aristocrats going broke. 1935. They bought doors, windows, fireplaces, panelling, and a staircase. And they had no notion of what they were going to build at this time. So they're building the stairway to a dream.
Now, the house is also designed that from every room you can look out and see the garden.
Yes, and the windows, because they're mullioned, either diamond patterned or grid, make every scene out look like a picture.
How would you describe the layout and design of the garden?
Ursula used what's called the arts and crafts style. It's an English style, came out of the 19th century. Its particular qualities are, it's interested in using local materials in your gardens, like the stone from the quarry on the site or the slate from Montaro. And then it created a layout of garden rooms, compartments in which you grew different shrubs and plants for different interests. And of course, there has to be colour in a garden. Lots of plants to choose from, but they particularly valued plants with ancient histories or folklore. So here are hollyhocks doing their thing, dramatic and wonderful.
I love this sundial garden because it's always so colourful and cheerful.
Well, Sophie, this was our first garden restoration project, if you remember, and we had a lot of help, and you, in particular, gave us the planting. And I just think it works so well. It's very hot, and it always looks good. What do we got? Tell us.
Well, we've got some beautiful mixture. We went from all perennials, because, you know, a garden like this would originally have been perennials, and they're high maintenance, and we incorporated more shrubby perennials. So whether it's a teucrium, betonicifolium, or even the dwarf buddleias around, it looks great. I just love this bleach pear arbour.
Well, this is a feature that went in 1936, and I've got a Brock's Brownie photograph of these trees as sticks being trained over this metal frame.
And when it's in bloom, I've been here, it is spectacular. The scent is intoxicating, but for all of about maybe 10 days.
That's it.
I think it's really clever the way that Ursula designed a picking garden, out of sight, away from the main garden. It's often the things that we love, like house drumeria. These are a great example. Fabulous cut flower, lasts for 3 weeks in a vase, but the clump's a bit unsightly.
Well, you know, can't have everything.
Well, you can't, so worth growing but hidden out of sight. And there we've got sweet peas and bulbs like liliums. It's such a clever idea.
Well, she loved a pretty bloom. You know, cornflowers too. I mean, they're all growing here. And then, of course, she actually took these cut flowers and shared them. She popped them in hampers, sent them to her artist friends in Sydney, Nora Hyson, Adrian Faint, preserving the flower forever in paintings.
Carrick-Hill is a special treat for gardeners and appreciated by the thousands of visitors who come here every year.
My key role is to keep the spirit of the place intact, how the Haywards had it and how life was lived there, and give people a glimpse of what they now left for us all to share. A garden, a parkland, 27 hectares of bushland with nature trails. That's a wonderful thing.
You may remember in the middle of last year, I started an experiment on this row of strawberries. On one side, I removed old and diseased leaves and fruit by hand, the conventional way. On the other, I just ran over it with a lawnmower and collected the cuttings in the catcher, which was much less work. Both patches then received a top dressing of compost. This stick is the dividing line between the two sides. It's now 9 months down the track. So which side did better? Well, I'm happy to say I can't tell any difference between the health and vigour of the plants on either side, as well as the yield is almost exactly the same with both methods. So that means the labour-saving mowing method is the winner.
Costa, it's good to see you.
It's nice to be in Melbourne, Jane.
Yeah, well, they've got us working together, and here we are in Noble Park at a place run by Urella. Now, I know that Urella does some really good work, but what are we doing here?
You might remember last year we did that call out to see if there was anyone out there that wanted a bit of help with their garden. Well, we got plenty of responses, but one of the first was Urella. And they're an interesting organisation that supports people with disabilities to live fulfilling and independent lives out in the community. Well, they've actually done most of the work, but our opportunity is just to come along, give them a bit of advice, and maybe help them with some finishing touches.
It'll be fun. Let's go and see who's there.
Definitely. Hi, Estelle.
Hi.
Estelle is one of the motivating forces behind this garden.
Fantastic.
Oh, you should have seen it before. It was a weed patch. There were these bushes only about so high and a weed tree in the middle of it all. Nothing else.
One of the first jobs is to get to work on the pavers at the end of the garden.
Ooh, don't have to do a gym work tonight, that's for sure. Hey, fellas, you ready for the road base?
Perfect timing, Jane.
Oh, look.
Out there?
Yeah, about there's that all right? 1, 2, 3. You reckon I can get a job with your navvy?
Oh, I reckon.
You reckon?
Yeah, I reckon. As part of their studies, 2 occupational therapy students, Isabel and Olivia, have come from Monash University to research and design the garden space.
Because there was already a little bit of decking available at the entrance to the garden, we decided to extend that further to make it wheelchair accessible and accessible for all the residents to use together.
I see you've gone with raised planter beds here. What considerations were involved?
Yes, so we wanted to make sure that the wood was really sturdy. So we used hardwood, ironbark timber. That way it'll last basically forever. So we made them 50 centimetres high, which is appropriate for wheelchair accessibility as well as residents to sit and plant from seating position. And then they are also 70 centimetres in width, which makes it appropriate for residents to reach across, and they can also use long-handled tools to reach across.
Well, the raised garden beds look great, but they'll be even better when they're full of plants.
Now, we've got lots of things to plant. We've got lettuce, all the different coloured lettuces. Is that all right?
Yes.
And they'll go about that far apart. So when we take them out of the punnet, they should be just beautiful. And look at those dear little roots. That tells you that they're very healthy.
Yeah.
They're ready to go. Once we get them into this ground, they'll be absolutely perfect. G'day, Ben. G'day, Mark.
Yeah,
Hello, Costa. There's some more veggies for you.
Perfect. Look
And
at these.
I have already been invited back to here to have a lovely salad lunch when they're all growing. So I'm thrilled.
Oh, well, we'll be able to see what each bed grows.
Exactly.
Get a selection for everyone.
Your bed versus my bed. I'll leave you to it.
Thanks,
See
Jane.
you, Mark.
Look at these, Mark. All right, Mark, can you dig me a couple of holes there, like about that far apart, each one? And then we can put the kale at the back, because it's going to grow taller. That's it. Oh, perfect.
So that one there.
push. That's it. And a bit more. Perfect.
Did you get one to that sucker?
I have noticed some very good tools that people have been using around this place. Isabel, just tell me what they're all about.
Yeah, so these are specially modified, long-handled, lightweight tools. So you can use these, you can see you've got the long handle and you've got the extra handle in the back, and so that you can access the back of the garden bed really easily.
I find it very handy, and it's very accessible because I don't have to bend.
Do you want to back up and come a bit closer here? Is that all right? Spot in there for a bit of parsley on the edge? What do you reckon? Those yellow flowers, you'd be able to sprinkle them on the top of the salad and make it look colourful, and they're edible.
Wow. Can I throw one?
Yeah, have a go, yeah? What'd you think?
They're all right.
They're all right. There's still plenty of work to be done here, but like any garden, it's a work in progress. And the thing I've noticed during my time is that this space is already luring the residents out here. They want to be a part of this garden. I've got plenty to do. I finished the paving later that day, and after the last few beds were planted out and the decking was clean, I reckon it's all come up really well. And since we filmed this story, this garden space has become one of the most popular places to be. The residents and staff can't get enough of it.
Grasses and clumping perennials are some of the most rewarding plants in the garden. They fill a space quickly, provide continuity when repeated through a landscape, and are easily multiplied. I've got two prime candidates for multiplication right here, Lomandra hystrix and Dianella revoluta. I'm going to start with the Lomandra, which I've already cut right back. You can see this clump here is pretty crowded, so I'm going to dig this one out to free up some space. So just with a spade, I'm getting in and cutting through the grassy roots, straight in like that. Seems pretty severe, but the plant will be just fine once it re-establishes. Get in there. The long-handled spade really is ideal for the job. Get some leverage in there. There we go. Now same for the Dianella. Cutting back the leaves helps to reduce stress on the plant, and they'll soon grow back fresh and tidy. Now you can see I'm not being shy about how I'm cutting this back. All of this stuff can come straight off, and there's no drama because the plant grows back from its basal shoots down here. There we go. Cut all of this off, just like so. These can be directly planted out and nurtured with regular watering until they've re-established, or potted up and planted out in around 6 weeks once they're looking good. Well, there you go. A cramped area cleared out, a bare area filled up, and it didn't cost me anything.
Even on a wet and miserable day, Sydney Harbour is still one of the world's most beautiful spots. But believe it or not, where I'm standing right now on the western edge of the CBD was once an absolute carbuncle on the backside of the city for a very long time. Starting as a wharf in the 1830s, it remained that way throughout the 19th and 20th centuries. And then this happened. the creation of Barangaroo Reserve, an ambitious urban renewal project which covers 22 hectares with retail, residential and recreational areas. But I'm really only interested in the 6 hectares set aside for parkland. So on a wild, wet and windy Sydney day, I'm here for a look around with my old mate Clarence Slockey.
The premise is to bring back the endemic species of Sydney Harbour and to recreate not only the headland itself, but the plants that would have been here.
Yeah, easier said than done, I imagine.
Literally had to start from scratch, so not only bringing back the plant material, but all of the soils and everything else that had to go with that.
Clarence has got an official role here, heading up the Visitors Services team who provide cultural tours at Barangaroo Reserve. So who is Barangaroo?
Well, Barangaroo was a very famous Gamrigal woman, so one of the Sydney clan. She was once married to Bennelong. Bennelong is well known for brokering a lot of the communication between the English and the local Aboriginal people, whereas Barangaroo, she didn't want to lose her culture, so there's a physical connection, I guess, and a spiritual connection to the people that were here many, many years ago.
This stonework is an incredible feature, and the Sydney sandstone is such an iconic part of the harbour. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, the interesting thing about the sandstone here is that it all comes from on site. So it was all excavated from below ground, and it's now forming part of the shoreline and part of the headland itself. The offcuts from the sandstone blocks were ground down to make the basis for the soil mix that the plants are now growing in. So this is one of those ochre pockets that is synonymous with the site. You can actually see where the sediment is laid down all those millions of years ago as this sand was pushed out into the mouth of the river.
So there's a geological history, but also an Aboriginal history as well.
Ochre was used a lot and still used a lot in ceremony, so you can say it's perfect at the moment. We can use it for art, we can use it for ceremony, and if you have the need and you have an upset stomach, you can just pop a bit in your mouth and down it goes.
So this hillside, the growth, you must be happy with that.
Yeah, it's quite phenomenal, actually, the way that things have really taken off in the short time that the park's been open. They came in at a fairly mature stage already, and they've just taken off since they've been here. A lot of the plants that are here were used and are still used by Aboriginal people of the local area. So this is the Warrenara Terrace Angus.
It's beautiful.
It is. Warrenara in the local lingo is a great view.
It certainly is. This is a great example of one of the local species from around the harbour here, the bleeding heart.
Yeah, this is a cracker, actually. It gives a lot of contrast and colour throughout the park, and there's quite a few of these around.
Yeah, it's actually related to the poinsettia, hence the name bleeding heart. Should be grown a lot more, I reckon.
Yeah, and as a native, it's a lot easier to grow in your garden as well.
Well, mate, I reckon you have one of the best jobs in the world.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's a great place to be, and there's still a lot more to come.
Well, I reckon the place is in good hands.
Well, good to see you again, brother. Take care.
You take care too.
All right.
Well, folks, this has been my last story for Gardening Australia. It's been an absolute pleasure and privilege to be part of this great program for over a decade. And I'm delighted to finish with this wonderful story of how horticulture can make a difference to the Australian environment. And I hope it inspires you to do the same in your own backyard, because that's what this program's all about. As for me, I'm off to my own little patch of paradise in Tasmania, where I'm going to create my own little private arboretum. So I'm off to sink the spade and explore some new horticultural horizons. Happy gardening.
Well, I'm one of the many people who's been inspired by Angus's passion for gardening and the plants of Australia. And I reckon he's made us all really aware and proud of the riches and diversity that we've got. And for this, mate, we take our hat off to you. Angus first came to our attention back in 2005 when Melissa King introduced us to a bloke with questionable tastes in shirts, but a great love for all plants Australian.
Well, it all started as a kid, really. My grandmother was a wildflower painter. She used to traipse all over the countryside, and I used to go out with her collecting flowers for her to paint. And she had kangaroo paws in her garden, and that's when the love affair started, I think. So as the flowering
Soon after, Angus became a member of the team and demonstrated just how gentle you need to be with plants.
Well, this calls for some extreme gardening.
He may have trained as a scientist, but he definitely brought the sensibility of an artist to his appreciation of the bush.
In this country, we're blessed with some of the most beautifully barked trees in the world. And in my book, gum trees are an absolute masterpiece.
And nothing fired his imagination more than an innovative gardening technique that could be shared with the rest of the country.
Now, every horticultural instinct tells you to plant it there, but we're going to take it right to the bottom.
All in all, we'll miss his knowledge and his delicious turn of phrase.
Time to sink the spade. You're ready to sink the spade. I'm off home to sink the spade.
Tassie's gain is certainly our loss. But thanks for 10 years of amazing memories. The heavens have opened up with tears of joy for your next chapter. Get out there and go for it, mate. We're with you.
Oh, g'day. Come over here, I want to show you something. Welcome to my planty house. In my new garden, I was interested in creating a bit of shade, a little bit of shelter, really, really quickly, and nothing does it better than annual plants. Of all the annuals you can have fun with, I reckon veggies are unbeatable. They're beautiful, they grow super fast, and best of all, you can eat them. Well, I've planted these in almost every house I've rented over the last 10 years, and they've always been a hit. This year, I planted this amazing maize. It's absolutely colossal. I can't believe how big it's gotten. This beautiful amaranth, which Jane Edmondson gave me that seed a couple of years ago. But the really simple centrepiece is a teepee of climbing beans. And every kid who comes to visit, big or little, love to hang out in the bean cubby. So I'm heading over to a mate's backyard to show you how easy it is to grow one for yourself. So you need a spot that's about 3 metres round, and I'm going to dig a hole right in the middle. That's where my post's going to be. Squid, thanks for that hole, mate, but it's about 300 mil off. Gosh, it's dry. So I've dug that about half a metre deep. Now all I have to do is stabilise the stick. So flat rocks are good because they stop the pull. There is a little bit more weight against the stick, and then I'll backfill with a bit of soil. I reckon that's looking good. So now I've just got to prepare the ring for the planting. So the soil here, it's pretty dry and dusty, so I'm adding a bit of compost and then I'll dig it in. That's pretty well right. Now all I need to do is put in my anchor points for the string. In this case, I'm using bricks, but you could use rocks. And the other thing that it does is it gives you a good spacing for the plants that you're going to put in. So about 40 or 50 centimetres for each, and then you'll go right round the ring. So I've measured out a double length of string. It's long enough to go from the top of the pole right down to the brick and around it a few times. So I've got to start tying them up for the plants to cling to. Looks good. Only 11 more to go. Of course, the best part of any project is the plants. And for my cool season cubby house, I'm going to use a combination of things. I'm going to start with some sweet peas, which I'm going to plant at the entrance. Now, it's important whenever you're using climbing plants on a structure like this, you go inside the structure, not outside. It just makes it a lot easier for them to jump up and grip the support. And as soon as they take off, they'll take care of themselves. Over here, I'm going to alternate, put in some of these snow peas. I've soaked them in water to help the germination, so they've been in there since this morning. I always put in a couple of seeds per hole. You can just thin to the strongest plant when it's actually germinated. On the outside, no, only joking, it's not that hard. I'm going to put in a little bit of kale. It'll look fantastic, and then work my way around. So give it a really good water in, and then in 4 or 6 weeks, should be looking pretty good, but I think Squid's pretty happy already.
I want to say thank you for all that you guys have done. You've done so much more for us. You brought us together as a group, and we're going to have a great time with this garden, and thank you.
It's a pleasure. It's fantastic. It makes us feel really good.
It really does, and, you know, your email went a long way to kicking it all along. So from all of us gardeners here, we want to see what's coming up on next week's show. Let's take a look.
I'll be showing you how to process large amounts of garden waste by building a simple hot compost heap.
Although this garden looks sleek and tidy, you won't believe the extraordinary efforts that had to be gone to make it look as effortlessly beautiful as it is now.
The inner city can be filled with hard, flat surfaces devoid of any nature, and finding room for a garden can often be difficult. I'm visiting a home gardener in Sydney today who's come up with an innovative solution.